Thank you for tuning in to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast, a no judgment zone podcast that covers lifestyle, entertainment, news, and sports. Even though KC doesn't watch sports, but these are minor details. By the way, he reads tarot cards too. Yes, I really mean it. He reads tarot cards too. And now, the host you've tuned in for, KC Phoenix.
Thank you for tuning in again for the Keeping It Real with KC podcast. And live from Dallas right now, early this morning, if you consider 8:17 a.m. Central Standard Time early on Friday. But I decided to do my daily thought. I changed it at the last minute, which I may do a second daily thought today as well, because the original daily thought, I was planning on talking about marriage and that stuff, but something was resonating with me earlier, and I was like, oh yeah, I think there's a message here. I probably need to talk about this. So, before I go any further, kirwkc.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. The thing that was going through my head this morning, and I woke up this morning, and then I made my bed, because that's sort of like my thing now, is making my bed first thing in the morning. And then I washed a dish that was in the stove. And I'm just going through other things. And this voice was saying in my head, finish what you start. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. Because, I hear, obviously, I'm intuitive, all that stuff, clearly. So I go by the things that I hear in my head. And I heard that it was like, finish what you start. I was like, okay. So then, as I go to my dryer to take my clothes out, or towels, because I washed the washcloths and towels, because I had dried them yesterday, I didn't take them out. So I took them out and put them in the laundry basket. And as I was doing that, the voice said again, finish what you start. I was like, okay, is this a this must be a new moon and Scorpio thing. So I'm really like, all right, I have to, some of these things that have truly been on the back burner forever that I've started, I really need to finish them. And it got me to thinking, because one thing about cardinal signs, for those who don't know, I'm a cardinal sign. In the cardinal signs, if you're not familiar with the zodiac, the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Those are the 4 cardinal signs of the zodiac. Cardinal signs are natural born leaders. And they're very, very, if you need them to take charge of a situation and get something done, they can do that. Also, cardinal signs are usually the ones who are willing to jump out first and just let the chips fall where they may. Some of you may have a cardinal sign in your chart too, where your Mercury could be in a cardinal sign, or your Jupiter or your Venus or your North Node or whatever. But one thing about cardinal signs is that they can start something, but they don't always see it through. That's the thing. And it's amazing because people have said to me, with the things that I've done, the things that I've accomplished, they're like, wow, you've done so much, you've done this, you've done that. And I'm like, honey, if you only knew all of the things that I have on the back burner that I've started, like I have this amazing script that I started back many years ago. Haven't finished it yet, but it started off great. The girl I call my little sister, she read the script. She's like, this is really, really good. I want to know what's going to happen next. And I'm like, yeah, I'm eventually going to finish it. Another thing, same thing with a short story I'm working on. I started it. First chapter is amazing because it's going to be 5 chapters. Haven't finished it yet. It's now about 2 years old. So those things are floating through my head right now. And like I said, I honestly think it's that new moon in Scorpio energy. Because one thing about Scorpios, they don't play. My mother's a Scorpio, and I know a lot of Scorpios. And Scorpios, if you want to get something done, give it to a Scorpio. So, yeah, with cardinal signs, and I can speak for myself as a cardinal sign, usually with us, we'll step out, or either we'll give you the ideas to do it. But as for finishing it, it can always be a little bit more challenging for us, depending on what it is. I would probably say, in most cases, if it doesn't interest us as much as we're going through the process, then we start to back away from it. It's the going through the process part. And that could be the case for a lot of people, even if you're not a cardinal sign, where you're starting on something and it's great at the beginning, but as you start to go through the process, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like, okay, well, I'll eventually get that part of it done, and I'll eventually get the next part of it done, and eventually turns into a week, and then eventually turns into a month, and then eventually turns into a year, and then 2 years, and so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, you started it, but you didn't finish it. And just so you know, the trash people are going by, making sure and doing the cleaning, so you're hearing them pulling the trash can if you hear that in the background right now. But as for the whole process, I think one thing about projects, one thing about just goals, is seeing it all the way through. Because you started it for a reason. There was something in you at the time where you were like, oh, I should do this. I need to do this. It could be something as simple as taking the clothes out of the dryer and folding them, because you started the process. You washed the clothes, you dried the clothes, but you left the clothes in the dryer. You didn't take them out to fold them, to set them on the shelf. Could be another thing where you're in school and you started your term paper, but you haven't finished it yet. And it's 24 hours before it's due. But you had started your term paper a month ago. And it's 24 hours before it's due. And you're like, oh my goodness, I need to hurry up and finish this. One thing I've always heard is have a sense of urgency. And having a sense of urgency doesn't mean that it has to be done right then and there. It's just complete it within a reasonable amount of time. Now, I'm not asking you to put a ridiculous amount of pressure on yourself, even though pressure can be good at times because, that's how diamonds are made. However, I would say have a sense of urgency. Also, if you have projects that you haven't completed yet, complete the projects. Finish what you start, especially if it's a creative project. If it's a creative project, it's given to you for a reason. And what I mean by given to you, one thing that Les Brown was talking about is that the place, and for those who don't know, Les Brown is a motivational speaker, but he said the place that has the most riches in the world, like the richest place in the world, he said is the graveyard. And in the graveyard is where all of these people passed. And there were these things that were given to these people to do. They had these ideas to do this. You may have had an idea to start a nonprofit organization. You may have had an idea to start a grocery store chain. You may have had an idea to start your own school. You may have had an idea to start your own marketing company or your own PR firm or your own this or your own that, or to create a brand new type of vacuum cleaner or a brand new type of bike or a brand new way of fitness or a brand new product that helps with fitness, as in something you can eat, consume, or a brand new type of television or a brand new type of microchip or whatever. You have these ideas, but you don't execute. You may have started it, but you didn't finish it. And then in some cases, you didn't start it at all. But really, for the ones who started things, but they didn't finish them, and it was taken to them to the grave when they died, it's kind of the thing of, there's a lot of unmined resources that have gone to the graveyard, where someone may have had the cure for a disease, or someone may have been able to unlock the code to something else, or to change life in general. Love them or hate them, Google has changed life. The people who started Google have changed life, because there were search engines before Google, but Google took it to another level, sort of like with America being discovered. America was already on the map. People always say, oh, well, Columbus didn't discover America. That is correct. Columbus did not discover America. America was already discovered by other people. However, Columbus was the one who put America on the map, is what Columbus did. That's why his contribution is so significant. That's why Google's contribution is so significant. Yes, there were other search engines before Google, but when Google came to the game and did what they did, they took search engines to a whole nother level, is what they did. Now, if Google would have had the mentality, the people who started it, which I forgot the founders of Google, I want to say Sergey, somebody, and someone else, but the founders of Google, if they would have had the mentality that, oh, well, there's other search engines. Yeah, we're working on this project, but we'll eventually get it done. Then where would we be without Google? Again, like I said, love them or hate them. Same thing with Facebook. Love Facebook or hate Facebook. There were social media platforms before Facebook where people could interact with each other. But Mark Zuckerberg, love him or hate him, created this particular social media network, and there was something different about it that revolutionized how people interact with each other. What if he was like, oh, I'll eventually get the project done. I've started it, but yeah, I'll eventually get it done. But he didn't just start it, he finished it. The people who founded Google didn't just start it, they finished it. And they continue to evolve to this day. What I'm saying to you is, if you have projects, and it doesn't have to be anything on a grandiose scale where you're looking to change the world. It could be something as simple as what I mentioned before, where you washed your clothes, you dried your clothes. Okay, make sure you fold your clothes. Don't leave them, and I didn't do this, but I'm just using this as an example because I know of people who have done this. Don't leave your clothes in the dryer for two or 3 days, and then you're like, okay, I need to go ahead and fold the clothes now. Or don't let dishes pile up, or don't let trash pile up, or what have you, where you started the process, but as in you pull the trash bag out, but then you leave it by the door, versus pulling the trash bag out and taking it outside. If you're starting a fitness plan, or you want to start a new fitness plan, don't just do the research and then leave it there. We have January coming up. This is where people do their New Year's resolutions and stuff. Of course, you know, with New Year's resolutions, people start, but they don't always finish. Because they'll do it for a few weeks and then they're like, okay, I've had enough of it. They don't like going through the process. And that's an example of people starting something because they have a goal in mind. They have this vision in mind. Some people want to lose weight. Some people want to gain weight. Some people want to be more defined. Some people want to be, quote unquote, more attractive. You have these goals, some of which you've already started the process. So I'm doing this daily thought to say to you what the voice has been saying to me all day long. And like I said, I think it's this new moon and Scorpio thing. Finish what you start. Finish what you start. If you start something, finish it. If you have something, anything that you have on the back burner right now that you're like, you know what? I really need to get that done. Go ahead and finish it. Obviously, you can prioritize and do things based off of what is most important at the time. But don't let it be a situation where certain things just constantly stay on the back burner, where everything else just constantly jumps ahead of it. Eventually, you have to revisit what you've already started. So finish what you start. If you notice that you have certain things that constantly keep getting pushed off, that's when they become a priority. Where it's like, you know what? I have put this off for a long time. I have to finish this. It has to be done. All of this overrides everything else right now. And I will not stop until I finish it. And again, that can apply to something as simple as folding the clothes that were in the dryer, or something on a major scale as starting your own hospital. In doing that. So I just want to throw that out there. Finish what you start. And that is my daily thought. kirwkc.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Until next time, be blessed.